There's going to be some very, very important messages in here for you if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, someone who either doesn't yet own a business or you own a small one, but maybe, and it's an online one, and you're struggling to make that transition and make it grow. Hey guys, Trent Deersmith here, past host of the long-running Bright Ideas podcast and founder of a software company called Flowster. I guess you could say I'm a serial entrepreneur, investor, and now owner of a local offline business, which I'm going to talk a lot more about towards the tail end of this video. But as for regular subscribers to my channel are probably well aware, I have not been producing a lot of content recently. And I want in this video to explain to you why that is and what it might mean for you, and then we'll figure out what the future lies. So the first thing that I want to make sure that you understand is this, and that is purely, in my opinion, because it's my channel and I only have my opinion, purely online businesses, which I've been doing for the last 10 years and I've made millions of dollars doing it. I don't think they are the way to go going forward. I want to let that sink in for a minute because I know there's a lot of people on YouTube telling you to start an online business, start a content site, start an Amazon business, start a marketing agency, start a membership site, and on it goes. There's a lot of things in their sales pitch that they leave out. And I'm going to cover some of those, but here's what they do to get you all excited about the online business. Oh, you can work from anywhere. You work in your house. You can be a laptop nomad and blah, blah, blah. And you'll have this geographic lifestyle where you're not limited by anything. They're not lying to you in that regard. Those things are true, as you're going to hear as I talk more through what's been going on in my life for the last year. What they're leaving out is there is an unlimited amount of competition if you run a purely online business. Now, am I trying to say that you cannot be successful with a purely online business? No, I'm not trying to say that, because you can't make a carpet statement like that. There are some people that, for a variety of reasons, are still going to be very successful with a purely online business. However, it is my opinion that the vast majority of what I'll call newbies who are watching YouTube and who have these aspirational dreams to own a wildly profitable online business, well, unfortunately, those folks are more than likely to fail miserably after investing significant time and effort into their business. And it breaks my heart to see that happen. This video is probably going to be a little bit longer than I would normally do. Might not have as many flashy lights, but there's going to be some very, very important messages in here for you if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, someone who either doesn't yet own a business or you own a small one, but maybe, and it's an online one, and you're struggling to make that transition and make it grow. So if you aren't familiar with me, allow me please to give a quick little background so that you know who I am and maybe why I might be worth listening to. So I have been making money online for over a decade. It started with my first blog, The Online Income Lab, and then I transformed into my Bright Ideas blog and podcast. And out of that evolved a marketing agency. And then I've sold information products. And ultimately I created a software company, which is still very much in business today. And in that mix also, before the software business, I became most well known as an Amazon wholesale reseller, which I did for about 6 years. And I want to make it clear, I am no longer in that business. I have sold that company. And I did that because the company stopped growing. And it stopped growing because of an unbelievably high level of competition, because there's a million people on YouTube talking about how you can all get rich on Amazon. And it is my opinion that that opportunity is over for the vast majority of people. To start in private label, you're going to need mountains of money. to start in wholesale, you're going to need some key relationships, because the brands that make these things, they're getting hit up by an endless number of resellers every day, day after day after day after day. And there's so much noise, you're literally not going to be able to stand out unless you have some key relationships that are going to allow you to create some social proof that is not easily replicated. So no longer a big fan of trying to sell on Amazon. That's why I sold that business. Flowster has been my sole focus for the last year. And it was one of the more challenging years in my entire business career. Candidly, Flowster, while a profitable business, didn't really grow. And I think there's a variety of reasons for that. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that because that's not the big takeaway. But the first one is I don't think very many people understand the difference between project management and process management. And I have other videos that talk about that stuff. But Flowster isn't a project management software. It's a process management software. And there's very, very few smaller entrepreneurs who think about processes. Instead, they just do all the work. They work endlessly. They do all the work themselves. They don't think about building a team. They don't think about delegating. Now, folks who are maybe 10 employees or more, they start thinking about that stuff. However, there's my second problem, is that I have an virtually unlimited level of competition for those customers that are 10 employees and more. And all of my competitors, regardless of where in the world they are, all the ones that I know of, are backed by tens of millions of dollars of venture capital. In other words, they can outspend me 100x, no problem. So given that the software business is not a face-to-face personal relationship business, I didn't have an advantage. As a matter of fact, I had a significant disadvantage because I wasn't able to match their ad budgets and I wasn't able to hire as many salespeople. So while at its basic, software seems to be this incredible business because it has really high margins and it's super scalable, and those things are true, what you must factor into any business, be it online, offline, software, or what have you, is your cost to acquire a customer. If your cost to acquire a customer is higher than the lifetime value of that customer, you will never be profitable, you will never make any money, and you will spend a fortune going broke. And all of those companies that are backed by venture capitalists, they don't need to be profitable in the short term. So the first takeaway for you is this: if you're in a business where the primary competition that you are facing, they have no need to be profitable anytime soon, and you're not backed by millions of dollars in venture capital, you're going to have a tough row to hoe. Because those companies, the investors of which, they're only interested in the exit, the big payday at the end, when they've lost, $30 million on their journey to getting to 20 or 30 or 40 million in revenue or whatever it is. They're still losing money, but now another company acquires them or they go public, and there's a monstrous payday for the venture capitalists. So that business for me has been a challenge, a huge challenge. So I have decided to go back to being the owner of a local business. So why local? Well, local has two major benefits over purely online. And local might have an online component, by the way, but again, that's outside the scope of this video. But it has two major benefits. Number one is there's only so much competition. For example, if you are a donut shop in your town, there's only so many other donut shops. If you are a gym in your town, there's only so many other gyms. If you are a general contractor in your town, there's only so many other general contractors. It's not unlimited levels of competition. That, combined with the second major benefit, is in a local business, relationships play a key role. Now, of course, depending upon your business, that may be more or it may be less. For example, if you're a general contractor or you're an architect, relationships are going to be critical to the success of your business. If you sell donuts, maybe not as much, but still you could have relationships with all the local businesses who want to bring donuts in for when they're doing company meetings or whatever. Maybe you could build your business that way. And so relationships would matter. In the business that I am now in, which I'll tell you more about in a little bit, relationships are key. And I love the fact that I am not outgunned in that regard. I don't need tens of millions of dollars to develop effective relationships in my local market with companies that will do business with me over and over and over again, to the point where I don't need an ad budget. I don't need a big sales team. I just need to maintain those relationships and then beat, in my case, in this business that I'm in now, one competitor. In the entire area, so where I live is in Boise, Idaho. The Treasure Valley has about 750,000 people, and I have one competitor that does what my new company does. So in my mind, that creates an incredible opportunity for growth where I am not disadvantaged to other people. So again, how does this pertain to you? I am trying to convince you that local offline businesses, well, that's the new sexy. And if you want to have success without all of the frustration and the challenges that I've already talked about, then you need to find a way to do that in your local market. And so now in this section of the video, I want to talk about buying versus building, because my entire career, I've built from zero businesses and then sold them. I don't even remember how many I've started. Not all of them were successful. I've started probably 4 or 5 businesses throughout my career. I've sold 2 of them, 1 I shut down. 2 of them are still running. The buy versus build question, and this is really important if you still have a job. And I didn't know this. And so that's why I'm sharing you this stuff. When I say I didn't know this, I didn't think about this. I didn't do enough research to understand the cost benefit analysis about what I'm about to explain to you. And that is that I think buying a business oftentimes, maybe most times, not all the time, makes a lot more success on the risk reward ratio than starting a business from scratch. So let me explain why I have that opinion. Well, first off, thanks to the aging of the baby boomers, there's a ton of businesses for sale. Not all of them have kids who want to take over those businesses. Some baby boomers are maybe just going to shut them down, but a lot of them are going to sell them. There's a lot of businesses for sale. Now, are they all good? No, but your job is to find the good ones. When you buy a business versus starting one, you can have a paycheck level of cash flow from day one. So if you have a job today and you're like, I really want to own my own business, but I just can't imagine keeping my job and then trying to do the side hustle and working another 25 hours a week over and above the 40 or 45 hours a week I'm already working, and how am I going to see my family and have exercise and have a life? And that's a huge challenge for a lot of people. Maybe it makes a lot more sense for you to just buy a business and then you quit your job and you transition to this business full time and you get a paycheck from day one. So in my mind, that's a whole lot less risk than investing who knows how many hours of your time and how many dollars in training courses and software to try and build your side gig to the point where it can become your main gig. And some people will no doubt succeed at doing this, and they're probably younger and single and don't have kids and other responsibilities. So if you're someone who's what I'll call a midlifer, you're married, you got a mortgage, you got kids, and you want to make that transition, good luck to you starting one from zero. It's not impossible, but it ain't easy because it takes a lot of time. Now you might be thinking, well, Trent, that all sounds fine and dandy, but I don't have a whole lot of money. How am I going to buy a business? Then that is where we bring in the SBA, and this applies to the United States only. So if you're watching this in another country, when I'm explaining, you'll have to figure out how this works in your country. In the United States, the SBA stands for the Small Business Administration, and it is, without a doubt, the most amazing opportunity for the average person, the average Joe, or the average Joanne, to go ahead and buy a business. Here's how it works. Number one, you only have to put 10% down. So let's say, for example, that you'd like to buy a business that does whatever, and it's doing $2 million a year in revenue. $2 million. That's not bad. That's a pretty sizable business considering that the vast majority of businesses that people start never surpass $1 million. $2 million a year business would probably have SDE, which is seller's discretionary earnings, a fancy way of saying profits with their salary added back into it. So let's say that on $2 million, it's got $300,000 of SDE, which is about appropriate for a business with a profit margin of say 15-ish%. And so you'd probably have to pay somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 times. So let's just say it's going to be 3 times earnings. So 3 times 300,000. So you buy that business for $900,000. You know, Trent, I don't have $900,000. Hear me out. The SBA will loan you 90% of that money. If you have some savings in retirement plans or home equity, again, if you're a midlifer, you can probably come up with the 90 grand. The SBA will also lend you an additional buffer of working capital, which they will determine how much you need. And then you can go and buy that business. And obviously the numbers have to work, which they will on many acquisitions, not all of them, for you to make your loan payments to the SBA and take a salary and run the business. So now you're in business for yourself and you never had to start at zero. And by the way, Warren Buffett, he never ever started a business at zero in his entire life. He believes it's too risky. So be like Warren Buffett. Now you might be thinking, Trent, I'm very uncomfortable to have $810,000 in debt. Here's the thing that I found out when I was in negotiations with the SBA for a business that I'm working on buying. The last thing in the world that the SBA wants to do is foreclose on you. I said to the guy, look, I want to understand what would happen if I defaulted on this business. And he goes, well, first of all, we don't want you to default. And I said, okay, but let's assume that, I buy it and all hell breaks loose right after I buy it and I lose half the customers or something really wonky goes on. He said, well, first off, we're going to work with you. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. What does that mean, you're going to work with me? Well, maybe we suspend your payments for 6 months. And I said, really? No payments for 6 months? Could be that, he says. Could be interest-only payments. Again, we don't want to foreclose on you. That is the very, 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 very last thing. So they're going to work with you and give you a great deal of flexibility that a traditional lender would never do for you. So in that regard, they are the friendliest lender you are ever going to find. Now, in the event that stuff really goes south and you actually go into default, and he said to me, Trent, the business would pretty much have to cease to exist, which is a pretty extreme case, right? Cease to exist for an SBA loan to go into a default. And then the only thing that we're going to come and take from you is if you had any home equity when you got the SBA loan and we put a mortgage on that equity, that's the only thing we're going to take. I said, wait a minute. So what if I didn't have any home equity? No problem. We would still give you the loan. Okay, so what if my business went broke and I still had $500,000 in the bank and I had a classic car or two? No, we don't come after that stuff. What about my retirement savings? No, we don't come after that stuff. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, that's how it works. So if you have home equity, get a HELOC loan, take all the equity out of it. Now this, by the way, this is not legal advice. This is just my opinion. Go talk to your own attorney before you do any of this stuff. I'm just saying, if you don't have any home equity, you're still going to get the loan. So in that regard, SBA loans, at least in my opinion, are about as risk-free a source of capital as you're ever going to find. So now, if you want to buy a $500,000 business, which is a business that's probably making $150,000 to $180,000 a year in profit, you only need 50 grand. I mean, if you're midlife and with the real estate and you own your own home, you have 50 grand of equity in your home. So I'm a huge fan of buying versus building. And so much so that I said to my wife after we sold our Amazon business, I said, that's it. I'm done with startups. I'm never doing another one. I'm only buying businesses from this point forward. So we embarked on a mission. We went on Biz Buy Sell and we started looking at business after business after business, looking at the numbers and so forth and so on. And then she found this one business. And, oh, by the way, and one of our most important criteria, because at the time of this filming, which is early 2023, and we started our shopping a couple of months ago for business, I said, honey, it's got to be recession proof because we're headed into some dark water. It's not going to be good. We need a way to survive that. So we were looking at businesses in the healthcare space. We were looking at businesses really that we just felt would not be severely negatively impacted by a recession. So think about non-discretionary spending, because discretionary spending, that stuff's going to get creamed. So she runs across this thing. It's a waste management company. I'm like, well, okay, garbage. Not going to stop making garbage. Might make maybe a little bit less, but we're still going to make a lot of garbage. Garbage is going to continue to be made. And it turned out that this particular listing on BizBuySell was actually a pitch for her to buy a franchise. And I said to her, I said, no way, not interested, don't care, not doing it. So she went and listened to the call, and she's like, you really got to come listen to this. And I loved the business model. Wasn't the least bit interested in the franchise. We didn't buy the franchise. But what we did do is start, and I know I just said I like buying businesses, but I have an exception. If I think that starting a business is going to be ridiculously easy, because it's going to be really easy to acquire customers, and I have a significant advantage, or there's almost no competition, then I probably would be okay with starting another one. And that's what happened in this particular case. So this waste management business that we're in, it's actually called Dumpster Crush. What do? We bought a large truck that is a mobile trash compactor. So there's these, the big garbage companies like Waste Management, Republic Services, they have these open top bins, dumpster bins they're called. They're typically 20, 30, or 40 yards. A lot of times they're on a construction site. And as they're building, whatever they're building, there's a lot of trash that go in these things. They fill up really fast, and they're super expensive to haul away. So the companies, these construction companies or manufacturers, who's ever renting these bins from these companies, they're paying through the nose to get rid of their garbage. And they're going to keep on making garbage. So this machine backs up and it compresses and mulches and compacts the garbage that's in those bins, so that our customers who are renting those bins from other companies can get a lot more garbage into each bin, so they don't have to pay to have it hauled away. So from a recession-resistant perspective, one, garbage is non-discretionary spending. And number two, we're helping them to lower the expenses of their waste management, lower their waste management costs. So how's that going to do in a recession? Probably pretty darn well. Now, here's the other thing. I've been out making sales calls. I still don't even have my truck, actually. We'll have it in about 3 weeks. So I've been out making sales calls to pre-sell. And holy cow, this has been the easiest thing I've ever tried to sell in my entire life. The entire sales pitch takes like 90 seconds. And so far I have 70 companies lined up for demos when I get my truck. And the other people who I've talked to who are in this space, they're converting 4 out of 5 customers from a demo. Compare that to the online only business, where you're one of a sea of competitors. You're all roughly the same. Relationships don't matter because it's online. You're not getting any FaceTime with these people. And they're not likely, to be a big ticket spend, or maybe they're not going to be a recurring spend. Like, can you see how much harder that would be than being in a local business where you have a finite amount of competition? And like in my case, once I have relationships with the 5 or 6 biggest commercial construction companies and they're very happy with what we do, that's it. They're just going to keep on feeding me business. Every single job site, guess what? They're going to have Dumpster Crush come and crush the garbage in their bins. So I've not been as excited about a new business opportunity as I am for our year 2023. I don't know that I've ever been this excited, especially because the early sales results that I've done, it's literally like I tell my wife, okay, honey, I'm going to go out and steal more candy from babies, because it's literally that easy. So is every business that easy? No, probably not. But I can tell you, having spent significant time being an online business owner, being an employee of local businesses as a sales guy, and then an online business owner, and now an offline business owner, offline business is a lot easier for all the reasons that I've explained in this video. So where do we go from here? Well, that's really going to be up to you. I'd like to make more YouTube videos. I'd like to talk about how I'm selling and what other businesses I'm going to buy to layer on top of this, and talk about the nuances of waste management and how we plan to start owning dumpsters, and but the Republic Services, they've got a monopoly here in this town, and how we're going to get around that, or at least try to get around that. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. And there are some other guys out on YouTube, absolutely, in the dumpster space, making dumpster videos, and maybe there doesn't need to be another guy making videos about waste management and industrial services in general, because I see waste management just as one revenue stream of a number. Like, for example, the company that we're looking at buying, they wash trucks, about 4,000 big rigs per month. It's a very profitable business, and we may or may not buy it. It's yet to be determined. But I'll call that an industrial service. And over the next 10 years, I'd like to see how many other companies that I can buy that have an overlapping set of customers in the Treasure Valley area. And ultimately, we might expand to Reno and to Salt Lake and have kind of a triangle, or maybe up at Tri-Cities, but all relatively local. You get there in less than a day. And there's just going to be a huge amount of lessons and things that I learned that I would love to share. But I don't know if it's going to be, does YouTube need another guy like that? And that's where I need your feedback. If you're still watching this video at the end, please do subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up, and please leave a comment, because if I don't see a whole lot of engagement on this video, my motivation to make more videos versus just running my business or taking time off or relaxing or whatever, it's not going to be super high. But I really would love the opportunity to profoundly impact a couple of hundred or maybe a few thousand people and get them kind of on the path to more success with a local offline business, probably in something that's dirty or greasy kind of space where the discretionary spending, or where it's non-discretionary spending, because I think you can build yourself an empire. To quote a guy I talked to who works for one of the companies that sells the trucks to waste management people like me, he says, Trent, I've been doing this for 21 years. And let me just tell you, my friend, you are in the right space. He says, all of my customers, they are ridiculously wealthy people, because garbage doesn't go away. Garbage has an incredible future. And there are other guys, like I mentioned on YouTube, doing the dumpster videos to show you how to get started. And maybe I'll do that too. And maybe I could do a better job. Maybe I can teach some things that they're not teaching. I'm not sure. But now the ball is in your court. I'm not going to talk a whole lot longer. I want to thank you very much for watching. Leave me something down below to give me some encouragement to keep going, and I'll keep making videos for you guys. Okay? Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.